Trump is now crowing about a silent majority supposedly supporting everything that he's doing. But the issue is that when you talk to the American people, it turns out that they aren't actually silent. They want to talk about Donald Trump. They said just that they don't really like him, actually, and increasingly so. I want to show you some of this. Half of Americans say that Trump's actions thus far have been worse than they expected. And when you hear that, just bear in mind, this was their expectation of Donald Trump, and it's still worse. This is worse than they thought the guy who did the insurrection was going to do. Now, overall, he's at a 37% approval rating in Pew. That's terrible. Only 21% think that he's doing better than they thought, and every MAGA person is desperate to answer that on a poll, but only 21% could actually bring themselves to do it. 50% say worse, and the percent who support all or most of Donald Trump's policies and plans is at 27%. This is wildly unpopular 1 year after the guy gets reelected. But it's not just his policies. Importantly, they don't trust him specifically. So when you ask, do you have confidence in him on these like personal qualities, like his leadership skills? Not too much confidence, or not at all, is the majority position. Only 1/3 have a lot of confidence in his leadership, and it goes down from there. His mental fitness, he's at 32% extreme confidence. Physical fitness, 28%. That's probably the fault of the Cankles, I would guess. Picks good advisors, 25%. Even MAGA at this point, it's like, no, he doesn't pick good people. Respects the country's democratic values is at 25%. And acts ethically in office, 21%. He doesn't even have the most rock-solid core MAGA on whether he acts ethically in office. He's at 21%. But that's fine. Here's the shocker, the real shocker, I think. Republican confidence in him respecting our democratic values, acting ethically, it is abruptly going down. Republicans have dropped 13 points on whether they think he will act ethically in the last 11 months. That's a pretty sharp drop for people who already had the better part of a decade of experience from which to evaluate that the first time. They already had him in office 4 years, and still they've been shocked by what they've seen. Respect for the democratic values, that has dropped among Republicans by 8 points. There's basically no independents left at this point on these things. Has the mental fitness needed to do the job? He's lost 9 points among Republicans in the first year of his presidency. And look, are those numbers still too high for the Republicans? Yes, they are definitely too high. But they've dropped by a measurable amount in just 1 year. And importantly, this should be a wake-up call for other elected Republicans. Because when you ask people, should members of Congress be obligated to support Donald Trump, even if they disagree with him? People are moving towards no, have an actual backbone. When you look at this from February last year to January this year, the percent who think that they have an obligation to support him, this is Republicans or leaning Republicans, has dropped from 44 to 38. 61% now say, no, you don't have an obligation to support him, so maybe grow a damn backbone. Jared, what do you think?
It's all over the place. And I think as we're seeing, everything that they destroy, as much as people still try to, defend him, every time that they try and assist him, they make it even worse. So even all they have to do is be somewhat competent in their lies, somewhat consistent in their lies, and all these sycophants would actually stay on board. But, they're not believing Democrats or independents or anybody that's saying the truth about what's happening. They're actually watching, their Fuhrer, and they're hoping that he'll say and do the right things to continue to keep their support. And they're not even good at keeping that. They're destroying their own base. It's not like people are being convinced by, Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries ain't said nothing that's convinced anyone of anything. Chuck Schumer ain't said nothing that's convinced anyone of anything. They're so bad at this that they're telling their own followers how much they suck. I watched and looked at so many, I got tired of looking at it. So many well-known, prominent people who either supported Donald Trump or were big-time MAGA folks previous to this that are downplaying it, saying how horrible this is. They're evil people, they're pedophiles, all this, all over X, even that place, to talk about how horrible he is. The downside to this happening to this degree is that we have to all suffer through this chaos in order for these people who are so brain dead to figure out what it is that we're seeing. Yeah. We all have to suffer before they go, oh, you mean the economy sucks? Oh, you mean we have no jobs? Let's give them another year of sucking before we actually have something where we do something about it. Well, I don't know if I think we're still a year from doing something.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by the election at the end of this year. But I get it. I feel the same way. I'm shocked that people still had to learn this, but at least some are learning.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has been tapped to oversee the security of American elections. That typically would not fall in that job description. She's someone that you've called before a courageous leader, a great friend. I don't know if you would describe her that way.
That was way back when. That was a few years ago.
So you wouldn't describe her that way today?
Yeah, I feel for Bernie. I think we all sort of understand how it must feel to be betrayed by someone like Tulsi Gabbard, who used to pretend to be, at least in broad strokes, some sort of progressive or leftist. It was evidently never the case. She just desperately wanted power and fame and money and access. And if she can get it pretending to like Bernie Sanders, then she'll do it. If she can do it stripping our rights away and helping to rig an election, she'll do that too. And it sucks, that feeling. For Bernie, it sucks for us. And we've had to grow kind of accustomed to it because for some reason, our side of the movement, despite never having any power, constantly preyed on by the worst sorts of liars and grifters and frauds and fakes. And it will never stop sucking. So I feel for all of us as I feel for Bernie Sanders. But there is a bigger threat here than just Tulsi Gabbard, as Bernie explains.
What do you make, though, of them putting her in charge of that after she was president in Atlanta?
I'm sorry. I think they understand that more and more Americans, and not just progressives, not just moderates, there are conservatives who say, hey, we don't want to see masked troops, federal agents in Minneapolis breaking down doors and shooting people. This is not what America is about. And Trump is on the defensive. I think the polling is pretty clear. His numbers are going down. Everything being equal, I think the Democrats are going to regain control over the House, maybe the Senate. And what he is now figuring out is how can he create a political situation where he won't lose in one way or another. And I think that is scary stuff, and we got to fight it every step of the way.
I think he's 100% right. I know that we all do have to fight it. And obviously, we have an obligation with whatever, power or influence or platform we have to recognize what's happening, to try to get people, worked up to do something about it. But of course, the politicians have 1,000 times more obligation, including Bernie Sanders, to stop it from happening. And we already know the Republicans are going to try to get through the SAVE Act, try to crack down on voting, make it a little bit harder, a little bit more inconvenient, especially in areas with voters with a melanin count that doesn't trend Republican. So they need to do something in the Senate. And the Republicans are going to try to stop the filibuster from affecting it. I don't know what tools or parliamentary procedure the Democrats have to dig up, but they cannot, under any circumstances, allow that to pass. That's the obligation that I put on to them. And as it's happening, we need to keep up with all the various ways that the Republicans are trying to rig this thing. And so we know about what happened in Georgia. We know that investigation into the 2020 election. But bear in mind, that's not even the only one that Tulsi Gabbard is involved in. She apparently is running her own review into the 2020 election with Donald Trump's approval, it says. Yeah, I think he approves of it. I think it's kind of his idea, actually, working separately from the DOJ. So this is her own thing. And an official was quoted saying, she's doing her own thing, which is probably how the director of national intelligence should fill their time. As we're paying their salary, they should just be off doing a little fun project about Georgia 2020, seeing what you can cook up. I mean, she did her thing about how Obama was going to be locked up or whatever, and then that didn't really turn into anything. Let's see what she can cook up to end democracy now, Sharon. What do you think?
So all of these people, yes, Donald Trump is this monster at the top. But as we guard against them trying to put the final nail in the coffin of democracy, somebody's got to be off to the side and build them a little hut or a bunker, keeping a tally of everyone who needs to face the most severe charges with no statute of limitations, hopefully. She's among them. These are treasonous bastards, really. I read somewhere that if someone is convicted of treason, which I think you can make a case that Donald Trump could be, that everybody with the administration goes to. It's not like then J.D. Vance brings his couch into the Oval Office, he would go to, and everyone else would go. This is the scariest time there is. A judge was reviewing the matter in Atlanta, and they still busted in. You've seen the footage where the FBI basically says, well, you know, the warrant's not really correct, but we're not leaving here without what we came for. We're going to take it by force. You can unlock the doors. So America, belongs on your T-shirt. By force or open up and let them in. So you're going to have to figure out where you stand, where you draw the line, and there can be no deviation from that.
In defense of them, I don't think they could wait for the judge to rule. It was very urgent. I mean, the election was only
National
6
security.
years prior. They had to get in there now. The ballots could spoil at any moment.
Wow.